lifestyle choices, a lack of motivation and unhealthy eating habits are often blamed for rising rates of obesity.
Well, in the hope of reducing the stigma experienced by those struggling, medical experts are now calling for the health condition to be recognised as a disease. And amongst those campaigning for change is Sarah Le Brocq, who raised awareness in the issue in Parliament yesterday.
She's joining us alongside Dr Zoe. Welcome to both of you. Thanks for being here today. So I guess, first of all, Zoe, we should just sort of explain what is the definition of obesity and if it has anything to do with BMI.
So it absolutely, in this country, is defined by BMI. So BMI is your measure of your height compared to your weight, and if that figure is 30 or above, that's classed as obesity. And it's limited, you know, for an individual that has lots of limitations, because actually you take half of the England rugby team and they would have a BMI of 30 or above. So it's about body composition, but more importantly, Canada have done a really good job of reclassifying it. So in Canada, obesity is determined by your BMI, but also by your overall health and the impact that having excess body weight is having on your health.
Right.
So what impacts does it have on your health?
Well, it's different for different people. So it can impact your physical health, it can impact your mental health, it can impact your social health, what you do, your work, your relationships. So it can impact people in so many different ways. And, you know, we're going to talk about weight stigma and weight discrimination, which absolutely adds to the problem, doesn't detract from it. So, you know, we're at a change now. We're at a point where the medical world finally are getting on board and recognising that obesity is a complex, chronic disease. It's not a choice, it's not a lifestyle choice. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about some of the reasons why that is the case. You know, for so long, the message has been to people who are above a healthy weight to eat less and move more. But if we just look at the numbers alone, the majority of adults in this country are above a healthy weight. About 65% of people have a BMI above 25, and over a quarter of people have a BMI above 30. So there'll be so many people at home watching this now who have obesity, are living with obesity. And even for those of us that aren't, we will know and love somebody who absolutely is. There are over 100 different causes of obesity, and our genetics probably makes up for about 70% of that cause. So the genes that we inherit, it's a genetic lottery. There are over 100 different genes that have been identified that contribute towards this. We have no choice in that, and that's the vast majority of the cause of this disease is linked to our genes. And beyond that, it's things like social circumstances, privilege, how much money we have, which again, you know, we don't choose.
And so, like you said, this is far more complex than I think most people realise. And Sarah, you, I think it was last Friday, you launched your new organisation all about obesity, basically to highlight exactly what Dr Zoe was saying there.
Yeah, absolutely, because I live with obesity myself. So I've spent a lot of my life kind of feeling like a failure and feeling like I've done this to myself and it's my fault and it's my responsibility to do something about it.
Right.
So I've literally tried every diet going, tried every kind of exercise plan going, and I would lose weight, but it would always come back on again. And that was what made me kind of go, there's more to this. It's not as simple as kind of just eat less, move more. So I launched the organisation because I really want other people to feel like it's not their fault, and to understand that there's more to this.
So what have you discovered? Because I know that you've been bullied, you've been abused, you've been trolled, and people do say, well, you just don't eat so much, or just get out and exercise. As you say, it's not as simple as that. So what causes it? You say you've had your obesity your whole life, really. You've struggled with your weight your whole life. What's the cause?
Well, so as Zoe's just mentioned, genetics plays a huge part in it. So kind of both my parents have struggled with their weight. So you can kind of look back and see kind of there is that link there. Yeah. But I think it's this kind of societal pressure to look a certain way. So I look back and I think that I've lived with obesity all my life. But actually, when I look back to being a teenager, I found a photo not that long ago, and I actually just looked like a normal-sized person. I just had hips and boobs. But because I was made to feel different, because I had hips and boobs, I then decided to try diet after diet after diet. And then when you lose weight and it goes back on again, you start gaining a bit more weight each time. And what happens is your body wants to fight to get back to the highest weight that you've been. So even if you lose a significant amount of weight, your body is then in this kind of fighting mode to get you back to that weight.
Is this set point theory?
Yes.
Because I've never heard of this before. When I was reading it, I was like, God, that's something I've not heard of. So you're sort of having to fight against your own...
biology.
Biology?
Yes, absolutely.
Why do people not know this?
I don't know. I think it's because for so long it's been told it's so simple of eat less, move more, that people don't want to hear anything else because they think, well, no, this is what we've been told. So why... People say to me, you're just coming up with an excuse. But it's not an excuse, it's science.
But also, I mean, I read a report, it was a few years ago, and I don't know if it was accurate, but I mean, it was saying that, you know, so 200 years ago, there wasn't obesity.
Yeah.
But there would have still have been that propensity genetically for you to have been obese, but you just weren't. So Zoe's nodding here.
Yeah, that's because the environment's changed. So, you know, even just if we go back 3 generations and think about our grandparents and great-grandparents, obesity rarely existed except for people who had quite severe medical conditions. And that's because the environment was one where we had to move a lot. There wasn't excess food. There wasn't highly processed foods. But now the environment's changed and there's an excess of food. We don't move as much, and that's the same for everybody. Your genes determine how well you're able to cope with the changing environment. And if you're somebody who genetically can eat more before you feel full, is genetically predisposed to enjoying foods that are high in fat and sugar, and someone who's food responsive, so if a plate of cookies comes, you can't focus on anything else. If that's your genetics, the change in environment is going to make it almost impossible.
So it's always
for you
been there, it's just lifestyle that's
Yeah.
tripped us up.
Yeah.
Yes, so the change in environment has made it more difficult for some people than others based on our differences in genetics.
So going to Parliament yesterday, so what is it that you would like to achieve by being it? Is it just sort of a turning point of us as society not to be so judgmental, not to be so cruel and unkind?
Yeah.
What is it that you're...
Yeah, fundamentally, I want to change the narrative around obesity. So I want people to know that it's a complex chronic disease, as Dr Zoe has said, that it's not someone's choice. No one chooses to live with obesity. And that we need to support people and stop chastising them and actually offer more support. So in Parliament yesterday, it was all around how can we level up the obesity care that's currently available, because actually only 50% of the country have access to weight management services. So that needs to change. Like, that's not OK. We need to have equal access. We need to make sure everyone has access if they would like support.
The thing is here that it's going to cost a lot of money with an already very stretched service. And the latest figures, the Obesity Cost the Nhs, was from 2015, £6.1 billion a year. That's set to rise to £9.7 billion in 2050. It's already incredibly expensive, but you're asking for more resources and more money.
Yeah, because the reason I think it's costing the NHS so much money is because we're not supporting people. So therefore, they're going on to get other comorbidities because they're not able to manage their obesity. And so therefore, things like diabetes, needing new joints and hips and things like that cost a lot of money. So if we actually manage it kind of at the beginning and actually treat people living with obesity as soon as we can, we might then reduce those costs further down the line, because actually they might not go on to get type 2 diabetes or need new hips or that kind of thing. So actually, we're already treating it, but just in different ways. So it's kind of about just shifting that money around. I don't think it's extra money. I think it's just there'll be less spent in other areas.
And Dr. So do you think what Sarah is asking for here will be a sea change? Do you think it'll make a difference?
It has to be. I mean, we saw our own Alison on the show on Friday explaining her experience. And she was right. Obesity is a disease. It requires the same level of care and support that any other chronic disease has. Yeah, that weight discrimination goes beyond society's views and how we treat people. It means that there's been less money invested. Obesity hasn't been prioritised. Imagine if across the country only 50% of regions had access to treatment for rheumatoid arthritis. That wouldn't be deemed acceptable, and it's not for obesity either.
Did you get a good response yesterday in the comments?
Yeah, a really good response, actually. As I say, more and more people... I think when they hear someone living with the condition, it makes that difference, because I think we talk about obesity as being numbers, like you've just said, facts and figures, but I don't think we always think about the people behind it. So I think that when someone's speaking, saying, this is me, this is what I've been through, this is what I think we need to change, I think people really engage with that. So I definitely saw some positive comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much
for
for having us.
Thank you. Thanks, Sarah.